This time on Rad Rat Video, we talk about whether skateboarders' brains actually work differently from everybody else's. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to Rad Rat Video, a channel about skateboarding in all of its forms. I like to talk about it here with you guys and answer your questions on Ask Rad Rat. The first question is from Frank, and it's a doozy. It fills up my whole screen. It says, is skateboarding potential predetermined in a way by the ground you have available to skate on? When I was 17, there was a period of about 7 to 9 months where I was skating almost every day on the street in front of my house. And that time I learned most of my basic tricks, even starting to get comfortable in all 4 stances. When the time came around for olling up curbs full speed and kickflips, however, I plateaued. Because the asphalt and sidewalk were both so rough, I was always really afraid of scraping something badly. I never felt comfortable skating fast. It was hard to gain and maintain lots of speed in the first place with such ground. I only ever landed about a dozen kickflips because every time I fell to the ground, even when I rolled out of the fall, my body would ache like I got hit by a car. I also never learned how to power slide or revert, but instead got good at pivots. Let's say I had ground like the barracks had to skate on. I could go as fast as I wanted, just slide across the ground. All my impacts will be lessened by sliding forward instead of going straight down. I know I probably sound like a baby who doesn't want to get hurt too bad, but I think this is something interesting to talk about. Since you, Rad Rat, also don't skate very fast, also had less than ideal ground to skate on growing up, and also wear glasses like I do. Do you think you were in a similar situation? How do you think your skating, trick and style-wise, would be different if you had better ground available nearby? Yeah, I felt that. I felt all that stuff that you were talking about. I never really considered the rough ground to be the reason why you wouldn't skate faster, although it makes perfect sense. So, yeah, like just trying to get up to speed is hard. Like there would be times I would always try to buy like faster bearings, but it wouldn't help. Like I would push, land my first trick and just, and I would like slow to a stop. Just because the ground was so rough. And so and actually having to catch yourself on rough ground is terrible. I can't tell you how many times I've dug rocks out of my palms because it would just like I would catch myself and just have like gravel in my hands because that's the type of ground I was on. Happened so often. And yeah, the fear of going fast, like you would absolutely never go fast to learn a trick, because you're going to bail a ton of times. You might as well do that really, really slow and inch your way forward as you get more confident with the trick. But yeah, every time you fall, and then like the strategies for how to skate on rough ground is a lot different. Like you mentioned, landing in a pivot instead of sliding. Talked about that in the last video, but that was a big thing the way I skated too. I never learned how to slide a trick. It was impossible. And it also affects the way that you pop certain tricks too. Like doing a 360 flip on rough ground is a lot different from smooth. In fact, I've done, I think, 2 switch 360 flips ever. The first one I did it took a few tries, but it was kind of out of nowhere. Hadn't been practicing them or anything like that, but I did it at the skate park. It was an indoor skate park, had that nice polished smooth concrete, and I could just kind of force the board to spin. I think that the problem with that trick for me was the timing, like getting the scoop just right and flicking at just the right moment in switch was really, really hard. But on that really smooth ground, I could kind of slide the back truck around. I could slide it on the pavement as it popped. And so I could just do it kind of weird, but push it that way and it would work. On rough ground, you have to execute it perfectly. You can't force it a certain way because it grips too much. So there is a lot to be said for that. I think if you learn on smooth ground and you get good at it, your technique becomes good enough that it still works on rough. But I think it's just a lot harder to learn and progress with that type of ground. So I do definitely get where you're coming from, and I feel it. I think that is a big part about the way I skate, the way that I do. All right. The next question is from Front Feeble. It says, what kind of fingerboards do you like? What's your size preference? Will you make another fingerboarding video? I doubt it. I ride a 34 by 97 5-luck fingerboard, squared shape on P-Rep trucks with some ill pills wheels. I laughed at ride because I'm not sure what other word you would use, but anyway, it sounds weird. What I have right now is actually a tech deck, but it's their fancy ones. They make them out of wood now. They come in like a plastic tube that you can get. They still sell the plastic ones like always. So I've replaced the grip tape because I like this foam stuff that you can get. And are the bushings original? I'm not even sure. But some kind of wheels that have bearings. And I've talked about this setup before, and a company called Cartwheels actually sent me some different sorts of wheels to mess around with. The problem was, oh, there's grip tape in here. They sent me some grip tape too. The problem was these trucks are so bad, they're the default ones that the kingpin hangs out, and the wheels have to be a certain height or else the kingpin will drag on the ground. So yeah, this is not a very good setup. If I wanted to get serious about it and do filming and stuff like you talked about, I would definitely consider getting some good stuff. But just the one from Target, the tech deck, if you replace the grip tape in the wheels, it's good. Like the trucks can stay loose, and it doesn't come loose all the time. It's decent. It's not great, but it's decent. And for me to just kill time on a call or whatever, try to do some switch tray flip front crooks. That's my favorite trick. I do that one a lot. You don't need anything too fancy, but yeah, that's what my setup is like. And I don't expect I'll ever try to film more with it. I don't want to turn it into a thing. Like, I have a problem where I'll take any kind of hobby I have and I try to make it like it has to become a thing where I produce something, not necessarily to sell, but like produce content. I can't just enjoy this. I have to make a video talking about how I enjoyed it, or I have, or if I watch a movie, I have to write a review of it. I don't often do that, but like that's the type of mindset where I feel like I have to produce something, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to just play around with something and not have it become a official thing, All right. Next question is from Otis, who says, I watched the Tilt Mode documentary on Transworld, and it really made me consider how every so often a company will be created that is an opposition reaction to what is currently going on in skateboarding. As mentioned in the piece, Tilt Mode was a reaction to the seriousness and the attitude of zero in companies like that. The last one I can think of is FA being a strong reaction to the whitewashing in skateboarding, whereas Jason Dill said that skateboarding sold itself to the mall. Do you think these the companies that just that react to stuff, are they necessary part of the industry, kind of shaking up what's going on, or are they mostly pointless? That's a very interesting question, because that is a thing not just in skateboarding but everywhere. Like, look at the clothes that people used to wear. Back in the 80s, you would wear tighter stuff if you were into like glam rock and all that type of thing. And then they got really baggy back in 92 or so. You could see all the skaters wearing these super huge baggy clothes. And they got a little bit more normal in the 90s, a little bit later, then baggy again. And then around the 2000s, you had certain skaters that were super tight pants all the time and all that kind of stuff. It's always the opposite of the last thing. You're cool because you are going against what the rest of people did. Like back in the 90s, if you watch like Friends or Seinfeld or something like that, all the men would have like these fluffy manes, have this longer hair. And then eventually it was just shaved as short as possible on the sides and the back, because it was the opposite. You don't want to do this look, but not do it as well. You either do the look or you do the opposite of the look, and that's the kind of thing with clothes, with hair, with all sorts of things, and with skateboarding brands. Now, I'm a little more jaded with this stuff because I've worked in branding. And I understand that a lot of times you want to position yourself in the market. So while with skateboarding companies, I would feel like that's probably authentic that they did feel that way, I can't help but think, let's try to fill this gap in the market. Nobody is making it this way, so let's try to do it like this. If there's 10 companies that do this certain type of thing, you need to do something different. You're not going to be able, even if you can do it better, you're not going to be able to take that marketplace because there's so many of them. So you want to do something different. So part of me always thinks that it's just a branding thing. It's just a sales tactic. But there is always something to it. There's some kind of spark behind it. So I think you're right. And I do think it's important because that's how we grow. If things went a little bit too crazy this way with the pants that are way too big and you had to tie a shoestring, that's what they would do sometimes, tie a shoestring together, and you realize how ridiculous that is, you can go way too far the other way. Well, maybe we'll find a decent spot in the middle, and that'll be the new standard. So I do think it's helpful to have those kind of things. All right. Next question is from Linus the Cat, who says, silly question, but do you ever see yourself subconsciously counting how many stairs there are when you walk upstairs? Do you subconsciously look at a rail for a few seconds without thinking because you imagine someone doing a trick down it? I stopped skating many years ago, and I get these moments all the time. Is that strange? I don't think so. And the way that I wanted to frame this was, what does skateboarding do to your brain? Like, in what ways do you get changed as a person because of skateboarding? And I think that this is a pretty big part of it. Like, if I were hanging out with somebody who does street art, and we both walk up, we're on the block, and we both see this building, they might think, wow, I could paint, like a full, this building next to it is blue, this is a brick building, so there's some red in it. If I did, this color or that color, and I can make this big thing that kind of goes with the lines, and they're thinking about what kind of art could go there. But me, I noticed how the curb out front is waxed, and I saw how it'd be kind of tough to do these stairs, but if you came down this way and turned pretty quick, maybe you could do it. So I'm thinking of it much differently than they are. And then somebody else could come in and they're thinking about, how hard is it to get up there in crutches? Because I'm in crutches right now. That's why I've been thinking about that, and I've been able to go around to places and realize how hard it can be to get around a store, that type of thing. So like a bunch of different people can see things in a different way. But with skateboarders, I don't think you can ever get out of that, because you are always looking for stuff to skate. Even being hurt, I've been hurt for a while, and it's going to be a while. I can't even get a doctor's appointment for a few weeks, but you're always going to think that way, because there was always that moment when you were looking for something, and that really exciting moment when you stumbled upon a spot that you weren't expecting. Like I was at the store with my friend one time, and we're getting some stuff, and then we saw it's like an extra stop sign. I don't think it's even normally there, but it was like a stop sign with this concrete base that was kind of at an angle, and I went and I did a trick on it. And I wasn't expecting that. We weren't expecting that. We were just going out to get some food or drinks or rent a video game. I think there was a game store there, and it was that time period, so that may have been what we were doing. But just finding something and doing it felt so cool. And you never lose that, where you are out somewhere and you see something, oh wait, if you could do that, oh I wonder if you could do that gap. You might not be planning to do it, but you always like to think about it. So I do think there is a permanent thing that changes in your brain. If you were to get into designing buildings or like designing parking lots or something like that, even if you haven't skated in 20 years, at least subconsciously, I think you would make it skatable. I think you would plan it that way at some level. So I do think you do get changed by skateboarding, and you get changed by a lot of different things, but it's not going to go away. So that's it for this time. If you have any questions of your own, go to radratvideo.com and submit them on the homepage. You can also submit them through Patreon for a definite answer. You can support the channel that way, or by hitting the join button here on YouTube. And that's it for this time. Thanks for hanging out. See ya.